What's up, guys? Matt here with a kind of a different thing on the channel. A little more of a uncut, casual discussion with two of my friends who are arguably bigger fans than I am of the My Hero Academia manga. So we're actually going to be discussing the newest chapter, Chapter 285 from this week. So there are full-on spoilers. This is the one and only spoiler warning that you guys are going to get. But I have my two friends, Brent and Mark. They're brothers, and they convinced me recently to get into the My Hero manga, which, guys, honestly, like, I think me and Mark, you and I talked about this a little bit. I think I talked to you about it too, Brent. Like, the detail in the manga, what the fuck?
The line work and shading is just nuts.
Dude.
It's so alive.
I mean, well, just think right off the top of your head. The one that really stuck out to me the most was when I first got into the manga. Like I was reading the manga at first after just seeing season 3 of the anime, and Brent specifically. I don't remember the chapter, but it happens in season 2. But he pulled out the moment where Shiggy confronts Deku in the square, and he says it's All Might, and he has that really creepy smile on his face. It's good in the anime. Don't get me wrong; he's super creepy.
Yeah.
But when you see that in the manga, he's on another level of get this motherfucker away from me.
He has like wrinkles all over his face and everything. I know the exact panel that you're talking about because I had the same reaction.
That one's one of them. But then the ones that really sold me recently that I just know they're never going to be able to do justice on is the moment where Dobby's turning Hawks into fried chicken when he has his foot on top of him, and he basically, he says that he's heartbroken. And like he says he can't cry, and he basically lights him up. Like the colored manga panels of that particular scene really demonstrate how badly it's happening and how crazy it is. And yeah, they're never going to capture that in the anime the same way. People are always going to bitch.
Yep, I 100% agree. And just full disclosure, like the manga is good. The anime is not bad. It's not bad at all. I would.
You just can't capture everything in a 22-minute. It means 22 to 23-minute episodes, and you just and you just don't capture everything. The Pussycat Dolls. A lot of people were upset apparently with the Pussycat Dolls introduction in season 4, just recently, where they got introduced back to the class again. Like there was apparently the spread that happened in the manga. Like I just remember reading feedback on that particular chapter and everyone or on that particular episode, and everyone was like, oh my god, they totally butchered the Pussycats intro. And I was just like, you can't get everything right. And then you see the opposite side of the coin. Deku threw so many smashes at Overhaul with his fists that basically it was like One Punch Man. Essentially they literally borrowed the animation technique from One Punch Man to do it.
I wonder if
and they just amped it up.
It could have been.
I think is it Nakamura that does? I don't know the guy's name. I forget. I might be butchering this shit. But basically,
if it's anything like Dragon Ball Super, then they might have multiple animators directing certain sections of episodes. That's why you might see shifts in animation.
The same guy that did the Boros versus Saitama fight in One Punch Man is the same guy that did the Endeavor versus High End fight.
Yeah, you can.
And he also did the Deku versus Bakugo fight. It's very, and then he did the Mob versus the guy from the Mohawk guy. I forget, but basically, yeah, he's a very famous animator, and you can tell because whenever there's an explosion, they explode into cubes. That's the tell from that particular animator.
Interesting. I think he might have directed a couple Naruto or Dragon Ball episodes too. I'm not sure, but yeah, I know it's super apparent.
That may be loaning an animation technique more so than it's something that's specific to different animators.
Yeah, I feel you know what it is. It's also the line smearing. The guy that does it does a lot of line smearing for whenever you see the smashes, for instance, you kind of see the hands blurring and everything.
Yeah,
that's a very specific technique by that one animator.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So
let's talk about this chapter.
yeah. I was gonna say before we kind of go down this rabbit hole of just My Hero discussion, let's focus on the chapter. So
Now you know we're fans.
yeah, you know what's really interesting? The way that they open. Obviously, this isn't the first time, at least to my memory, that My Hero has done this. But they keep talking about the danger of misusing One for All and how
One for All
Deku
specifically.
can like destroy his arms. Like
his bones are brittle. Like they were healed from dust, essentially. Like he didn't just break the bones; he turned them to powder, and basically got reconstructed. They're not meant to keep doing that over and over. So they're basically saying, you do that kind of damage again, and you may not be able to use it. I don't know if they mean use it like in a general sense or use it with any sort of force. Like that's not really clear to me.
Probably without any sort of force. I'm assuming. I mean, it would be absolute. Don't get me wrong. Like, it would be thematically, it would be crazy to completely like make Deku's arms practically numb and dead. Especially, I think it's his especially referencing today's chapter, it was like his right arm that was particular. Wait, no, right arm was the one that was cradled in Black Whip. Left arm was the one that was particularly messed up from the barrages from the end of chapter 284. Yeah. Like you could tell that I would imagine he would lose maybe the ability to throw a punch, or just like he loses the motor function to the extent that he can't put force behind it.
I got a question for you guys. Okay, so Shiggy says in the official translation that was 3 flyby hits. The succeeding 3 panels after that where it says that's what just happened, right?
Those are the 3 smashes, and I did not put that together until I read it.
Can we fan out over the panel of him with Wyoming Smash and St. Louis Smash with Deku's face? Like, that is one of the most... Look at the line smearing on his hand there. Yeah. Like, he's coming back with force that would tear my labrum out of its socket. I've got a torn labrum, folks. But, yeah, he's coming back with force that would absolutely... Well, think about Shiggy right there. He's got his hands out. All he has to do is kind of touch Deku, but...
The whole chapter, he's literally just saying, this guy's fucking me up. If I don't do something fast, then like I'm just gonna lose.
I think Deku's coming so fast that Shiggy can't even see him. Like Shiggy's just like reacting to getting smashed because like he has his hands out, and like you would think that it would be pretty easy to lay his hand on Deku and try to disintegrate him right there. But like,
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Oh yeah, I just and then just the quirk control with him literally pulling him with Black Whip. Wow. Yeah. Like you even see it, like it's getting pulled with his right arm. Like you can see where Deku created, like he pulled the tension out of it essentially by pulling him in so close. He's literally a ping pong. He's like a paddle pong ball. You know what I'm talking about?
And he's holding onto him with Black Whip so he can't fly away.
And Deku's the fucking paddle.
Which I wonder if that puts any strain on him to pull back after blowing someone with 100% power.
Well, look at his arm. His arm's so
both of his arms are messed up. Dude.
That was an observation Bakugo made in the chapter. He was literally saying that the impact from needing to use Air Force to balance back against, he has to. All right, think of it this way: Deku has to smack him with 100%, and then Air Force over 20% of One for All. The moment he finishes hitting him behind, but he has to do it behind him in a way that he can balance himself in the air too.
Yeah.
So like he's doing like an attack and then getting a recoil after the fact by even trying to buffer his own attacks against, whatever. He's eating the recoil with his own effort, which is just, he's taking a lot more.
He's offsetting everything with his own quirks just to keep himself up there. Bakugo says as much when he says that in the next panel. I mean, do you see? Okay, let's just look at the detail. The page, it's page 6. I have pages on mine, but I'm looking at it. It's page 6. Up in the sky, you see all the explosions happening at once. Like there's, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at least. Those are all explosions of them moving around so quickly. Like I don't know how they animate this.
Oh, I feel like this is gonna be like a big budget episode when it comes out.
Dude, this when I saw this originally in the paneling for the way these chapters have presented themselves recently, and the way this feels like a climactic fight, like the end of season 4 with Eri fighting an Overhaul. It feels like that level
It
of
feels like
climax.
the end of to parallel it even further. It feels like Naruto and Sasuke fighting and like the end of something. Like this feels like the end of the status quo.
After I read like last week's chapter, I was telling Brent like, where do they go from here? Like, even if they beat Shiggy, like, what are they supposed to do after this?
Okay, we've talked about this for a while, Matt. Or at least it's been talked about for a while. Most people seem to think, or at least it's basically said through the words that have been used, that like society is going to come down. Like everything is going to. I don't know if they mean like society is going to come down like an all-out villain takeover, or if they mean society's faith in heroes is going to be so shaken from this event, which I think I lean towards more. But basically, like everything, we're going into a very dark time again. Like keep in mind, All Might is what took them out of the first, I would guess, call it the Dark Age. Like you had the Age of the Vigilantes, and then you had the Age of All Might, and All Might was the reason that like everything turned into a very relaxed society in the first place. So we've lost that pillar now. So now that the pillar's gone, they're basically going to have to come to the realization that you can't put all your faith in one particular person, because look what happens when that person leaves or dies. Right. So I think we're setting up for a real societal shakeup in terms of how like the thought of a hero is going to be presented. You know what I mean? Like we're definitely not at the point where we're going to go back to school. Aizawa can't even fucking walk.
Yeah.
We're at a very, very bad time for heroes.
Which do you think he kept his quirk even after he cut off his leg?
I think on that note, I think it just wasn't explained yet, and Horikoshi does this a lot. He'll do something and then he'll have enough little tidbits to like kind of make it feel like it's not a plot, like an asshole. Like he always sets stuff up for the future. Like look at the time, like right after the Overhaul thing happened, and when Hawks and Endeavor were walking down the street, they had the dude out there that had the shame quirk, where he basically wanted to liberate himself, and it was setting up the Redestro plot.
Yeah.
Everything is planned in this particular series.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I wanted to actually bring up a point with y'all. I wasn't certain how you wanted to proceed with like an analysis for this chapter or not, but one thing I did want to talk about, and Matt did touch on this, so I wanted to go back to the thought, was the consequences of what's going to happen with Deku and everybody, or Deku specifically, for how hard he's having to go against Shiggy right now, and what kind of consequences do you think will happen to Shigaraki as a result of all this? Is all this effort going to be in vain? Are we going to have Gigantomachia show up with all the League of Villains?
Oh, yeah. Like, we haven't even gotten to that motherfucker yet. He is literally...
He's on his way. He's charging to them right now.
Listen. When you think about it, and you really think about this pragmatically, the heroes are screwed. There's no way around it. Deku is their trump card. He is literally the most powerful. He has the most powerful quirk. Like people are I don't know why people even try to say like Deku versus Endeavor. Dude, it doesn't matter who. Deku can throw Air Force and wipe out Endeavor.
Bakugo openly and blatantly talked about Deku needing to balance multiple quirks at once in front of everybody. He is monologue. I don't think he was monologuing to himself. I don't think he wasn't like. He didn't say that to himself whatsoever. He said it loud enough for Lockrock, Endeavor.
Well, no, he said multiple quirks though, so he's not like people already know he has Black Web. He didn't like, and I quote, Deku's using his legs and Air Force to negate the blowback, controlling multiple quirks simultaneously. People already knew. Well, I guess Rocklock didn't know, but like there have already, like I was listening to some YouTubers talk about this. There are people that have multiple quirks. I mean, fucking Shoto Todoroki has 2 quirks in one.
Half hot, half cold.
So it's not total. It's when you start getting into 3 or 4 quirks that it's going to start getting really weird. And speaking of that, okay, let's talk about that because you just brought that up, Brent. Let's flash forward a few panels. We can always go back a little bit, but Endeavor. I don't know why I keep saying that to you, dude. All Might and Bakugo are talking, and Bakugo literally says to him, when All Might says, "I don't want to speculate and talk about things I'm not sure of," and Bakugo says he's the one who basically created One for All, right? Isn't it an offshoot of his power? Multiple quirks. It's the same as him. I mean, he's literally
Are they
guessing it
talking
right
about
on
the fourth
that.
user?
No, he's talking. No, Bakugo is talking to All Might, and he's saying, "Look, this is really fucking weird because All for One has a bunch of quirks. Like he can steal quirks, and now Deku has a bunch of quirks. And you're telling us, like when he saw everything, he realized that All for One created One for All in the first place. So it's not hard to imagine that the reciprocal of any of this can happen. Like who knows if well, it seems that All for One is stockpiled, like his vestige is stockpiled into the quirk the same way the other people are. If you notice, Deku, what was it? We were talking about it recently, I was listening to it in a chapter breakdown or like a chapter review, and people were talking about how they're able to communicate with the vestiges. I guess he can only communicate with the dead ones, right? You can't communicate with anyone that's alive.
So far, we haven't seen him. I
So
mean, outside
okay,
of
yeah.
All
So
Might
on
face to
that
face.
premise, he should be able to talk to Nana. He should be able to talk to the fourth. He's confirmed to be dead, and he should be able to. He already talked to
Yes.
Daigoro Banjo. I guess what I'm getting at is, isn't it kind of weird that he can't talk to the first two as well? Like, if we go by the logic just on its face that he can talk to the dead people only.
The first one spoke to him in the literal first visage he ever had.
Is he dead?
The first one, we have to assume he's dead. He's as old as when the quirk was developed, and he should. If all right, let me give you some reasoning. We had remembered, I think it was in season 3 that we had gotten information that All for One had an immortality or age regression or some kind of slow aging quirk or something like that or something to that effect. And as a result, if All for One needed something like that to stay around since the inception of One for All and All for One's villainous reign in a general sense, it probably wouldn't be a stretch to also assume that the younger brother or anybody tied to that time period at all would also need some kind of quirk to stay young. Like the Doctor, for example. I mean, hell, the Doctor was the guy who came up with the quirk singularity theory, and the only reason he's alive is because his vitality is traded for his physical endurance and stamina or whatever.
No, it's athleticism. He has no athletic. He's a very very clumsy guy that basically, he's basically relegated to being a walking like Percy, Hunchback of Notre Dame. So okay, so we were just talking about like going back to him talking to All Might. He was saying that Bakugo, I'm talking about, he's the one who created One for All, right? Isn't it an offshoot of his power? So he's basically saying that One for All is the inverse of All for One. So there's certain things that are going to
the similarities.
They're going to react to one. I almost think of it like as a reaction when they get too close to one another. They just react like they're equally powerful in their own right. One stockpiles energy and some copies of quirks, if you think about it, and then the other one just steals quirks. Like you can take whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Point. Yes.
No,
yeah,
I didn't really have anything to add on top of that.
What is he? He calls it a cursed power. So I'm really sure what the hell that means. Like, does it slow?
I think it's a cursed power, and that like you're destined to intermingle with All for One, the worst person in the world, essentially. Like if you have that power, you're destined to be hunted down.
You have to fight the greatest villain.
Listen, All Might said it a few chapters ago when he was talking to him. There was like the big not a flashback, but it was like a panel of all the One for All users passing on their quirk. One dude's missing an arm. One dude is like bloody all over his face. All of them died.
Yeah.
Or they said All Might says they all died young. So it does seem like they all died now that I think about it.
Yeah, All Might's the oldest one by a sizable margin.
It's a cursed power in that you are destined to live a life of hardship, I think and it even follows up with that panel of Deku Like, look at him in that. It says, "I'm the Deku who does," like 2 panels later.
Always does his
It says,
best.
"I'm the
Yeah, and he
Deku who always does his best."
does his
He
best.
looks fucked up.
He looks
Dude,
so
he
mad.
looks
He's so
absolutely
pissed, but he
mauled.
looks fucked
Mauled.
up, dude.
He got mauled,
Okay.
bro.
So then the next page where Bakugo has already given them the plan and uses his firepower to get Endeavor up so he can give it everything he's got.
Right.
Like the panel where Deku is literally ready to attack. Like he is going in with everything he's got right before Endeavor swoops in and grabs Shigaraki, which I love the way he grabbed him. Like
Yeah. Full
he
Nelson.
can't put his hands on him. I love it.
It's the full Nelson,
then-
bro. Worked in his credits.
That prominence burn, I couldn't see it very good in the first chapter release in the scans, but Bakugo covering and shielding his face with Todoroki just enjoying the hell out of it.
He's
Like,
just
this
like-
is how you become a hero.
Yeah. He's like embracing. He's like, that's my papa.
Yeah, that's my dad.
Like he won't
But
say
look
it,
at the
but he's
next-
just like, that's my fucking dad, dude.
But look at the next panel at Shiggy. Like, he is
Shigaraki
burning
is-
to a crisp.
Well,
He looks.
the panel
Oh.
after that. Is it? Yeah, look at him in the panel after that. He's literally charcoal. He's a person
He is-
made of charcoal.
Yeah.
Dude, what is he saying? Well, before that, when All For
They
One
muffle
comes
it.
out, he says, "Let me."
Do you want me to guess what he actually tried to say?
What?
Shiggy's mouth is burned shut and he hasn't fucking healed fast enough. That's genuinely what I think is happening before he talks. And then eventually you hear little brother after that or whatever, but it's a moment later.
Come to me, little brother, or something. But like, look at Deku's face. He has the look of like he's totally like scared in one, like oh no, and he's got totally one like he's like upset with his left eye, and with his right eye, it's like wide eyed, like oh shit,
Yeah.
like I can't believe it. Like really, I just did all that work and I can't do anything. And then of course you got the most heroic moment from
Bakugo returning the favor from.
Oh,
Deku
man.
all the way
So,
from-
question for you. Do you think, because it's always been, there's never been a moment where Bakugo has spoke, like, from the narration point of view. It's always Deku. Do you guys think it's still Deku, like, he loses it? Because Bakugo just got hit. I think that was Deku. I think that that line was not actually Bakugo. I think it was Deku. I think that he is going to go apeshit crazy right now.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Bakugo because it's like a callback.
It is, but
to
they've
the
never
relationship.
used someone else to narrate anything.
But Bakugo is basically main character 1-2.
He's main character 1B. I'm not disagreeing.
So I mean, it's not. I don't think it's uncommon to have him narrate like a specific part of the story, especially if it's like to demonstrate the growth of the character thus far. He's returning the favor all the way back to when he was captured by that villain, when Deku didn't even have any powers, and he saved him, and he said the same thing. You know, at the
Sludge
moment,
villain.
he just moved on his own. His body just moved.
That was so good. That was such a
hero
good callback to that.
It's
That's
So
a
there's,
cool
I count
representing
4
a hero moment,
piercings.
and it's like a callback moment because now he's doing it for him.
I count 4 piercings going through him, and they don't look good.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I didn't see. Usually, when I see like a stabbing, if it goes through the chest, then I start to wonder, like, this person's probably dead. But I think they could. I mean, judging by where he got hit, they could probably get away with, oh, it didn't hit any vital spots. He'll live or something like that.
Yes, sir. That's what I can. Well, Endeavor's character arc still hasn't ended. There makes no sense. Like literally, from a writing standpoint, the author will 1,000,000,000% not kill off a character until they've had some kind of redemption arc, some kind of and Totoro and Endeavor's isn't completed by this point in the story.
Would you
But,
say
I mean-
Bakugo's is?
I mean, his redemption is completed, but now, I mean, technically speaking, it could be thematically okay to kill Bakugo right now,
Yeah,
because I mean,
do you think he would be bold enough to kill Bakugo right now?
he is
I've
the
seen
number
some
one
comments
top. He
thinking
is,
that he's he's dead.
His
So
top. The
does he get? Does
popularity.
he get? Did you watch the video yet, Matt?
What video?
The Bakugo time travel theory, because he might get whopped into next. He might get whopped back in time, dog.
Whatever. Fucking silly horse shit. We're good on that right now.
Not seen that. I have no idea about these time travel. You start bringing
Bakugo
time
is
travel
the
into your
second user
show.
of One for All, and he completes a time loop. It's a long story I'm just going to give you the Cliff Notes version. It revolves around the theory that All for One is stolen from Deku, and they basically are out of options and a way to beat Shigaraki. And they end up sending Bakugo back in time to tell the first user that he has the quirk in the first place and that it needs to be passed on. Keep in mind, every single version of reality that you live in is like a different version of that particular reality. Like it's owned by so basically they want to send Bakugo back in time using Aries quirk. They're gonna use Aries quirk, let's just rewind, to actually send someone to the past. The first One for All user, keep in mind that's such a weird power that you would never know that you have the ability to pass on a quirk. Keep in mind he got stockpile from All for One. So he learns from Bakugo that he can pass on the quirk. He says, "Give me the quirk." He gets the quirk. He gives it to, I forget why they say that he gives it to Kirishima, but basically they're the two that complete the passing of the quirk and get the quirk all the way back to who it needs to go to in the first place. And it brings All for One. It brings One for All back. Like, it's a really weird theory. It's super intricate, and it has a lot of support in the community. You'd be surprised.
All right, now that your tinfoil hat is off,
Climate change isn't fucking real. All right.
fake news. All right, yeah, that's a pretty interesting theory. I'm definitely going to look into that.
You need to.
So we basically covered the entire chapter. Do we have any thoughts? Do we want to just say?
Well, where's it going from here?
Thumbs down. I'm pretty sure it's a thumbs up, but yeah, where are they going from here? I mean, we've
Bro, this is a fucking okay. So if we go by chapters that like blew my socks off, certain chapters really like caused me to go nuts. The chapter where Mirko knocked out the high ends, that chapter was so hyped for me, it was insane. I just never expected that. I don't know why. Then the chapter of Endeavor beating Hood, I would say, is another one that really got me like really hyped. Basically, the only ones really since then that like knocked my socks off, where I was like, that is a 10 out of 10 chapter. It was the one where I would say Shigaraki, where he woke up and he goes, "I'm cold," and he literally incinerates the whole city and then takes Exodus's cape. Yeah. That was a chapter that left me stunned and left me with a 10 out of 10. I give this a 9.5, if not a 10. I thought the setup was amazing. I thought everything about the execution was great, and I thought the panels of Deku fighting Shiggy did it justice. Like, it felt like a fight worthy of the time.
Yep, I agree. 10 out of 10 chapter for sure. Where I think it's going next, though, I think the earlier theory that Deku's gonna go crazy, but I don't know. Honestly, I just don't know what he's gonna accomplish doing that. Maybe he'll do something that we've never seen before. I don't know.
Okay, so there is. Let's talk about another thing, since we're talking about where it could go. And I brought this up to Brent the other day. So there's also another theory by the same guy. He does both a bunch of theory videos, but he typically backs it up with enough stuff. He has a theory that the fourth user of One for All, his quirk was actually decay, and that it was stolen from him by One for All. All for One tried to steal One for All, and he was only able to steal the base quirk from the guy, like essentially like a copy. He was only able to steal the actual main quirk. He couldn't steal One for All, and basically he thinks that Shigaraki was implanted with that quirk. I don't think Shiggy had decay, neither do you. Like, I don't think that was his natural quirk. I don't think he had a quirk.
Yeah,
I think All for One did that. And what was I going? Oh yeah, basically, you know how Deku had to activate Black Whip when he needed to essentially restrain those big blocks that were falling? Like, that was the reason that pipes. I'm sorry. Yeah, but he needed it. It was a need for the quirk to activate. So we have that, and then we have the theory that or then we have the situation where Deku activated float when he needed to because he trained it. Well, keep in mind, he trained for that quirk because he knew about it. If the fourth user's quirk was actually decay, and he has that quirk latently inside of him, the only way he would activate that quirk is if he wanted to kill, aka decay the person he was looking at.
Shit.
What would happen if he opened up that quirk right then and there? That was the fourth user's quirk, and it was like a decay wave mixed with one for all that you couldn't imagine.
Oh, dude. Then Deku becomes OP again.
I'm listening.
OP.
That would be one way he wouldn't need to use his arms anymore. Like he could. I mean, obviously the arms would get fucked up. Who knows? See, then you know, then you have the blowback of it.
Yeah. How does he continue to be a hero?
So I don't see. That's just a theory. Like I haven't thought about all the loose ends of it. Like there's more stuff to it, but yeah.
So
like,
since we're kind of coming to a point where we can't think of what may happen, or we haven't maybe pondered on it. What do you guys think's going to happen to Shiggy?
That's okay. Yeah, that's the reciprocal of that question because All for One took his body over right there. Do you think it's like Jubito from Naruto?
Like who?
Like where he just becomes a new person after he gets taken over and like he's no longer that person anymore?
Yeah, but
like,
I think he hasn't been lost fully. I think he's gonna get away somehow, and have to for a good portion of the next few arcs.
He's unconscious in his own mind. He's unconscious in his body.
Yeah. I think he's gonna have to fight back and forth for control of his body or something for a few chapters. Or
we agree that All for One isn't. We agree that since the vestiges of One for All are basically able to communicate back and forth, it totally makes sense that All for One would either maybe if the person's alive, they have even more control than you would think. Like maybe it just hasn't been discovered yet since All Might actually has he's still alive. Maybe his fire or his will is what would allow him to communicate more effectively. I don't know. I'm just trying to think. All for One seemingly was able to take over the body. He is the originator of the quirk, though. So, huh? Yeah. I thought we had some at the door. Did you check the door? 2 packs? No, nothing.
All right. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what's gonna happen next. But I guess we'll talk about that next week. When the chapter hits. I guess the leak chapter comes out on Friday, and then we'll reread on Sunday, and we'll chat again.
No, yeah, I don't look at spoilers, so you'll never catch me looking at 3 or 4 panels and trying to derive context. I have to wait until I get someone that at least understands the language enough to try. This past week, it was a pretty good translation. I think there was a couple of things that left me a little bit confused, but for the most part, it was spot on. But the week before, Bakugo was like, "I trust Deku 100% in the leak scans," right. But the real translation was Deku trusts you 100%, or Deku trusts you completely, but there's something you're not telling him. Right. And I was just like, that's totally different context. Thank God I don't go by that.
Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't really happen with a lot of manga, but I just get impatient. When Dragon Ball leaks come out, I'm like, I just want to take a peek.
Look, all right. So a prediction for next week. I think that we're getting awfully close to a Dabi reveal of Dabi being Toya. Keep in mind, Endeavor is right there, and I keep stressing it. We're gonna have Endeavor, Shoto, and Dabi in the same place if Giganto shows up. That doesn't happen too frequently. In fact, that's never happened yet. I think that the situation is going to be so dire that it's almost revealed in an offhand way. You know what I mean? Thanks, Dad. Or I don't know. Horikoshi's gonna nail it whenever he does it because anytime he brings a big moment, can we agree that him killing twice was one of the best moments of the series? I forgot about that.
Yeah, I was so sad, dude.
It would have been awesome if I didn't spoil it for Matt by accident. But yeah.
Sad. I was 1 chapter away.
The panel where Hawks' arm is coming with the sword, and it's going in right before it goes into his back, and he literally is it's about to happen, and you see the blood, and you see the handkerchief, and then if you look really carefully, in the next panel, there's a really zoomed out shot. And if you look carefully, you can see Twice's body falling from the top floor. It's 100% Twice. He got stabbed and fell. And, Oh, no, that was his clone. I'm sorry. He pushed his clone. I'm sorry. He made a clone and the clone fell. and that was the clone that fell down there and ran to Toga and all them. It was just such a beautiful moment, like when you realize the finality of everything, because you actually didn't see him get stabbed. You just saw the clone falling. So it's like, what happened, you know?
Yeah.
And it ends up not being him. It ends up being his clone, and just
then it melts
yeah.
away.
I was chopping onions when it happened, so there was some moisture in my eyes.
Yeah, onions.
But
onions.
yeah,
Pickles.
onion.
Still no
but
pickles.
So yeah, I
Yeah,
think
man,
I
I'm
think
I'm looking forward to the next discussion we got about this. This is fun.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
I think Giganto's going to show up next week.
All right, so let's sync up next week. We'll talk about the next chapter, and obviously, if there's any other manga that we can talk about, we definitely should talk about Dragon Ball. I know I'm more of an avid fan there, but if we can talk about anything really as it comes out,
You'd have to carry that discussion a little more. I'll catch up for you, and
right.
I can at least talk in an intelligent way. You should read Chainsaw Man. That thing is so fucking bananas that it is worth talking about.
Chainsaw Man. Okay, I'm trying to finish Demon Slayer. I kind of want to get into One Piece manga because I feel like it'll be easier for me to get caught up, but we'll see. All right.
Okay.
Well, I'll talk to you guys next week, and we will have this discussion next week. All right, guys. See you next time.
Thanks, Matt.
See ya.